Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Neeraj. Let's get to the interview. And just out of curiosity, what's the approval rate for our customer applications?
We are currently approving around 35 to 38% of all the applications.
Wow. And what goes into the decision-making process in terms of who gets approved and who doesn't get approved?
Sure. So this is something which we have built. This is an analytical engine, which takes basically your Chit data and your bureau data. Roughly around 27% of our customers are NTC or new to credit, so we don't find them at all in the bureau. And another 35% are very, very thin file. They would have a very small gold asset-backed loan, which is very popular again in our customer segment, right? So we take that data as well, and we also take the bank statement. Around 10% to 12% transactions of any customer typically goes to the bank. Remaining 88% is cash. So these are the large pieces of information in which the Chit statement or the Chit data plays the major role, because we generally get around 5 to 6 years of data. So we could see the cyclicity of the business. We could see how well the customer has been paying. We could see whether the investments in Chit are increasing or declining, whether the customer acts as a borrower or a saver or investor. Then there are nuances like, if the customer is applying in their family name or not in the Chit. We always find positive correlations, if you're applying in your wife's name as well, for example, or in a child's name as well. So those nuances also play up. But there are roughly around 300 odd parameters on which, the machine assesses the customer's creditworthiness and approves or disapproves the loan.
So when you came basically from an entrepreneurial background, or what would be, I guess, generally seen as an entrepreneurial background, then went on to business school. I mean, did you ever imagine that you would be in a situation like this, that this would be the nature of the work that you'd be doing?
No. So I always thought that I would be doing something on my own. I will try and impact the society in some way or the other, but never thought that I would be running a credit business, after doing my B school.
So when you said something interesting there, Neeraj, that comes up a lot in these interviews, and I'm curious if you don't mind sharing what you talked about. Having a level of impact. What kind of impact would you were considering? What kind of impact you wanted to have in the world? I'm wondering how much of this venture for you is tied up in kind of a return that's beyond the financial.
Sure. No, so Robert, when we started this business, and when I was looking for the first set of employees also, one thing was very clear, that our dream is not just to make financial returns. Yes, no company can survive without financial returns, but the idea is significantly beyond that. So it's not about just serving the tier 1 cities and people who have already access to credit, where you can also become another player. But the whole idea is to bring access to credit to people who historically have never got it. And why so? Because we ourselves have seen people, or especially families, where the income is rising, whether it is by 10% a year or 20% a year. Their family always invests better in education, always invests better in the savings for the future generation, right? And that is something we always measure, right? So if we are giving a loan to somebody, even in our application form, we do ask, how many children you are sending to school, right? And then in the bank statement, if it is going through bank, we always try to find how much money you're spending on education, right? And again, then, later, whenever at least I am meeting the customers personally, and we are also trying to make a formal way of monitoring it, of how much additional you're investing in education for a child, right? But one thing is very clear, which you also track, how much your income has increased, after taking a loan from us, right? And that directly correlates with the well-being of their family, well-being of themselves, and creating more safety net for themselves in terms of money, right? And those are the things which we want to create as an impact in the society. My father never had that. So any crisis we have faced, I remember, we shutting down our shop and we moving from one place to the other, right? And I have seen the pains of keep moving your house every 3 to 4 years to a different city. Not a very happy experience.
No, and do you know what I love about and why I'm so interested in the Indian market for entrepreneurship is that growing up in a place like Canada or North America, and then of course you spent a decade in the UK, we've had decades now of financial stability. And, we now have a generation of children that have grown and been born into prosperity. And that sense of security and the safety net that exists below us, I think my own impression is, I think it's created a level of complacency and a level, we've lost some of the urgency involved with driving to create financial stability through the creation of businesses and, investment in education. There's certain things that we take for granted now. And one of the things I love about speaking to Indian entrepreneurs is the fact that, of course, you don't have a safety net. There is so much that has to go into and why you invest so heavily in education and why the creation of businesses are so important in the community. And even just describing your own personal story, about witnessing what your parents went through is really fascinating to me. I mean, it's I wanted to create this series because I really believe in the transformative potential of entrepreneurship. I come from quite a modest family, and I witnessed it myself. And so I love speaking to entrepreneurs like you who are using entrepreneurship as a lever to both, create stability for yourself, but also improve society. It's interesting, though, that it would have been easy. It strikes me that for somebody in your situation, it would have been easy to kind of just say, it's just about the money. So what was it that made you build into the ethos of your business this kind of social impact? I mean, you described the way that you had experienced it growing up, but were there other factors that you considered in creating that philosophy?
Yes, Robert. So, and as I said, the 10 years which I also lived in UK was very transformational for me, because every time you catch a flight from London to Mumbai, if you have landed in Mumbai, you would see the Asia's biggest slum, every time you land. Right? And it's not a good sight. But unfortunately, that's the reality of these, of India. We live in a place where nearly 80% of us earn less than roughly around $20 a day, right? So when you come in, when you live here, you realize that a lot can be achieved, a lot can be created if all these people have access to things which can change their life forever. Obviously, credit is one, but education is significantly better. Mentorship is significantly better. The third is digital, right? In India, because we don't have a lot of physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure is leapfrogging everything, right? If you have seen UPI, the way it is, dramatically changing the whole payment ecosystem, where everybody has now credit cards on their mobile phone, for example, or at least debit cards, if not credit cards, right? So after seeing this, I think a lot, not only me, but a lot of my peers, we all are trying to see how we can, solve some of the problems in India and not just talk about money. Money obviously is a byproduct, but how do you solve and make it a better place to live?
Do you know what is amazing? It has always amazed me. I've traveled fairly extensively through the developing world, and the thing that always blew my mind was how many people are entrepreneurs, how many people have even got multiple kind of gigs going, because they've got to hustle to make money. And so what I loved about what you just said is the fact that you do not lack for a population of people with hustle, with energy. What you lack for is the kind of vehicles like, as you say, mentoring or access to credit to actually enable those people to really blow up the market. And man, I love that mission, because the other, forgive me for commenting on it, but, the other aspect of India, which, we don't deal with here, of course, is a level of class or the caste system. And what's amazing about entrepreneurship, of course, is it's very much a meritocracy. Success in entrepreneurship doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter the color of your skin or what your religious beliefs are. if you've got an idea, you can turn it into something. And I love that also about it.
So true, Robert. Absolutely.
So my question is then, what's next for your business? Where are you going, and what does an exit look like for you?
Sure. And also, it's a cliche term. It's still day zero, right? So we have just started. We have just begun. We have just proved that model works. At least to ourselves, for sure, and to few of our investors. The idea is now to make it massive. As big as possible, to impact as many families as possible, to impact as many small businesses as possible. And then we don't stop there, right? There are a lot. The dreams are huge. How do you ensure that each customer who has taken a loan from you, how do you help them be more digitized, right? How do you change their index of digitization? Because we clearly see much better business response and much better profitability if you are digitized further. So definitely it'll be that. Definitely we're going to focus on how we can create or remove more frictions from the entire supply chain for our customers. So that's another area which we would want to work on. So opportunity is huge. In our core business itself, we have just started. The idea is to impact millions and not be satisfied in thousands, and then work around to solve many other problems around it.
Interesting. Well, you certainly have your work cut out for you, and I know that the journey is fairly early on. But one of the communities that watch these types of videos are obviously people that are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. And I'm curious, when you look back on your experience, you'd gone to business school, you'd worked in a professional sector, and then became an entrepreneur. What were the kind of big lessons you learned along the way that you would pass on to somebody who was thinking of becoming an entrepreneur that would make their job perhaps a little bit easier?
Sure. So let me put it this way. One, I'll put some of the good points and some of the bad points of becoming an entrepreneur, and if that helps anybody.
Sure.
So one, it is hugely rewarding. If you have any idea liking to become an entrepreneur, please do so, because it is hugely rewarding. You will learn 10 years worth of content, of life lessons in 1 year. Your ability to interact and form friends with employees and colleagues, with your customers, would be significantly better. Second, your results you can see much more easier versus working for a very, very large organization, right? In a large organization, you're obviously a cog in the wheel. Whatever you're working on, obviously there's an impact, but it may or may not be directly visible. Versus, as an entrepreneur, you can see every day's worth of effort resulting into something. For me, it is very, very motivating. You can clearly see what you are actually creating a dent in the universe, to borrow again the point earlier I made. So those are definitely huge pluses. What you should not do is definitely, if you are doing it just for the sake of building something or making money, this might not be the best channel or vehicle, because it is a roller coaster journey. It is a hard grind. All the accountability lies on you. So if you're trying to run away from your boss, don't do that. Don't do entrepreneurship with that. You're answerable to significantly more number of people than what you are in a job. Right. So those are things you should not do. But if you're passionate about something, if you think that something will make, if you do something and that will make you very, very happy, I think entrepreneurship is the best way to explore that, work it out, and especially if you are in a society where financial stability or the support from the government is much more, you should definitely try it out.
I just want to follow up on that point. I'm curious about that. Because of all the entrepreneurs I've ever worked with or interviewed, only a handful of them talk about money as being a significant part of their focus. Obviously, we like to make money, and that's the point of the business. But what seems to drive a lot of people is exactly what you pointed out: passion. And I'm curious about that comment that you made. How significant do you think that is as a requirement? Just to build on what you're saying, how significant is it, do you think, to basically be more focused on kind of a higher purpose in the creation of the business versus just the financial return?
Sure. No, so Robert, one, if your entrepreneurial journey is successful, right, or even mildly successful, one thing is for sure that you're going to live with this organization, company that you have created for next 10, 20 years, right? Now, every morning when you wake up and when you are, trying to get ready to go to office, unless you're passionate about what you're doing, you won't be able to come to the office, right? Because it's no longer that shiny office. It's no longer, things where everything is in place for you to go and work, right? There are not multiple departments, all of which have the accountability. In the initial period, you are the Superman, right? You are the one-man army. And unless you're passionate about what you're doing, unless you believe you are changing the world you're living in, the motivation of money will run out very, very soon, right? It's the passion which keeps you going, right? Believe me, within at least my journey, I would not have been thinking about my salary after the first or second month, right? It's all about what you're doing. And it is so overwhelming, it completely takes over, right? The job you're doing, the number of customers you are meeting, what their problems are, you are trying to solve that problem, and are you being able to solve that problem? It's such a motivational journey, such a passionate thing, and that drives you, right? Money doesn't at all.
I love that. That is a fantastic way to end our discussion. I just want to thank you again. It's been an exceptional privilege to talk to you. So thanks. I know that people will get a lot from this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert, for listening to my story and propagating it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of our two-part interview with Neeraj Bansal, co-founder of CredRight in Madhepur, India. If necessity is truly the mother of invention, then Neeraj and his modernized take on Chit Funding may help transform the lives of small business owners in one of the world's most vibrant economies. I want to give a big shout out to my amazing sponsor, the Innovation Hub at Carleton University, dedicating to help create leaders like Neeraj. Find out more at www.carleton.ca/innovationhub. And please remember to hit like and subscribe for more great stories of inspired entrepreneurship. See you next time.